When I started gardening, I gardened in neat little rows, and I found that for me, that wasn't a style that nurtured my soul. I found out that my garden is a place that brings me joy and peace and contentment in ways that I didn't know it could. What was that? My dog, probably. What are you doing over there? Yeah, that was the dog. That's Duke. Hey, buddy. In the book, Growing with the Seasons, a sharing of insights into the creative aspects of organic gardening, Alfred Austin says, "The glory of gardening, hands in the dirt, head in the sun, heart with nature. To nurture a garden is to feed not just the body, but the soul." When I moved to the Missouri Ozarks, I didn't realize how true that would be. I didn't realize how much my soul needed to be in the garden. I'm really grateful to be in my garden right now, in the breeze, enjoying the sounds of nature, enjoying the sounds of the chickens. I'm so grateful to be on my farm, in my own garden, eating food that we've grown ourselves. It's amazing. When I started gardening in California, it was because I just had a desire to grow things. I hadn't ever really done it before, and I didn't really know much about it, so I started out small. And then within 2 years, we had decided to move here to rural Missouri. My dad was ill, we wanted to be closer to family, and so I decided to keep gardening. So now we grow and raise. We raise all of our own meat. We grow a little bit of our veg. That's one thing that I want to get better at. But in the garden, I've learned so much. I didn't realize it would be a place that brings me so much joy. When I first started gardening, I gardened in straight rows. So my goal was to be a market gardener, to grow produce for our own family to eat and to sell at the farmer's market. And it was a lot of work, and I wasn't very good at it. So I didn't ever quite make that happen. However, I found out that I need some whimsy in the garden. So I started adding some arches. I started adding some curved pathways. I started adding some beautiful things like my chandelier. And this year I added a pool, a floating pool, right in the middle of the garden. Of all the places on the farm that I could have put it, I plopped it down here in my garden, and I absolutely love it. I float around in there and I look at the flowers, and then an added bonus that I didn't really think about is Missouri summers are hot. So I get like sweaty and gross really quickly and tired working out here. Even in the early morning, sometimes it can be 90 degrees and 90% humidity. And I found out that I can work in the garden a little while and then take a dip in the pool and float around about 10 minutes and then get back out and work in the garden some more. So it's nice to cool off and keep going. So that's been kind of fun. And over the years, as my garden has changed, I've tried different styles. I've tried back to Eden gardening with thick wood chips. I've tried some potager gardening. I've tried growing on trellises, and now it's just kind of a hodgepodge mix of everything, and it brings my heart happiness when I walk out here. Each year I have a different harvest. Each year I add new fun, whimsical elements and things of beauty. This garden has become a retreat for me, a place where I just want to spend time and sip coffee and hang out with friends. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we made the move when we did, especially over the past few years with the pandemic and everything else that has gone, all the inflation that's happening all over the world, to be able to eat food that you've grown. There's so much satisfaction in that I didn't know. I didn't know how much pleasure that would be. I didn't know how much better the food was going to taste when you've grown it yourself. There's something about that. And then I also didn't know that it was going to be a way to connect with people around the world that I'd never met. I could start naming them, but I mean, that would be silly, because then it just sounds like name dropping, and it's not what I mean. But it's amazing the people that you can connect with over the celebration of a bountiful potato harvest, or over the of the bugs, the squash bugs, or whatever it is, and to share stories and to share our hearts and to see a little glimpse into other people's lives, into their garden. So I do love that. Every time a seed sprouts, every time a seedling transplant lives, every time it puts on a blossom, every time there's fruit, every time there's a harvest, it's so much gratitude just like floods me. It's weird. But something that I have learned about gratitude is that people who are grateful are happier. Studies have shown. And when you develop pathways in your brain for gratitude, you tend to see the world in a more positive light. In the article, How to Rewire Your Brain for Happiness by Vanessa Loader, she talks about your neural pathways in the brain, your thought patterns being like a jungle. So the first time you have a thought, it's like cutting a path through the jungle. So when you are, and she talks about being stuck in traffic and getting that anger feeling. Well, that lays down a plank of anger. And so it's like you're building a bridge in the jungle, a rope bridge over a gorge or something, and you put the ropes out, and every time you have thoughts like that, you are building that pathway, you're building that bridge, and it strengthens itself. It strengthens itself the more you have those thoughts. But if you counter those thoughts, if you decide to take those moments sitting in traffic to be grateful that you have a vehicle, or to be grateful for the sun shining, or your favorite song on the radio, whatever it is, that it changes direction of your brain, and your brain believes what you tell it. I think that's really interesting. You can choose which truth to focus on, is I think the way I like to think about it. So it's not like you're lying to yourself. You're not denying that there's an unpleasant situation happening, or a sad situation, or whatever it might be. It's that you are choosing to find the good in every situation and to focus on that. And in the garden of life, it's the same way. You can focus on the weeds and the bugs, or you can focus on the flowers and the harvest. You get to choose. You get to choose where your attention goes. My hope for you would be that you find solace in your garden, contentment and joy, that you can look past the weeds and the bugs to see the fruit and the flowers. When the world wearies and society fails to satisfy, there is always the garden. Something else that I've learned in the garden is that the end is not the end. When we get to the end of the garden season, when the harvest is over, when winter comes, spring is just around the corner. So I can be grateful for the little bit of rest time, the break-in seasons, before I can try again. And then next time, maybe I'm going to plant different seeds, try new varieties, try something different, a different gardening method. And I think we can do that in life. A lot of times in life we feel kind of stuck where we're at, or things come to an end, a job comes to an end, a relationship comes to an end, and we get kind of frozen. But I try to remember that it's a winter season, and I can take this time to prepare for what's next, and that it's not necessarily the end. There will be new relationships, there will be new jobs, there will be new beginnings, and that brings me joy.